Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of our new match preview series here on the Hornet Talk podcast. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by George, Caden, and Beecher for tonight's episode. And on his return, good evening, George, my partner in crime. How are you, George?
Good evening, Liam. It's been a long time coming for me to come back, but very glad to be back. And there's a lot to talk about since the last time I've been on here. We've had two different managers, so yeah, there's a lot to cover. And obviously our game against Preston, which we do have a video from one of our fellow podcasters, which we'll get into later. But how are you, though, mate?
I'm good. Now, before I introduce Caden, a very warm welcome to our special guest this week. I'm delighted to say Beecher's joining us. Good evening, Beecher. How are you?
Good evening, guys. It's great for you guys to finally see both my face and be able to hear me. Seeing as last time I was involved with the Hornet Talk, it was on deadline day, and we had a few technical difficulties. But no, now hopefully this one goes a little bit more according to plan. But yeah, I'm great.
Yeah, good to hear. Now, a very warm welcome to Caden this evening. Good evening, Caden. How are you?
Good evening, Liam. Yeah, I'm all good. What about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Now, before we get into tonight's episode, I'm gutted to say that Jack from the Butter Pie podcast could not join us this evening. However, he has left a video for us, which is really kind of him. So take a look at this.
Hi guys, it's Jack from the Butter Pie podcast here. Sorry I couldn't be there for you live this week. I would have loved to, but unfortunately some things came up. But either way, looking forward to the weekend. Another tie at Deepdale for us where we face a Watford side with a new manager and a club in turmoil. As whenever is it not, really? How many managers have you gone through in the last 15 years? But yeah, you're winless in 6, and we have just got over our little winless slump where we didn't win for 4 games, 3 league defeats in a row, and we managed to clinch a draw away at Ipswich. But we managed to put an end to that with a 1-0 win over Portsmouth last weekend, which wasn't the prettiest. Neither is our pitch at the moment, but we got the job done, and I feel like that's a testament to how good we are in terms of our defensive structure at Deepdale, how we are quite hard to beat. I know Hull City put 3 past us, but that was just a one-off in my opinion where, we didn't have our fittest players, our best players and fittest players ready at the time. And I just believe that, with everyone coming back, with Osmanic coming back from his ban, with Robbie Brady and Lukovic and Lang and all that, all raring to go, I do believe we will make this 2 victories in a row at Deepdale this weekend. I do believe it'll be a 1 or 2-0 Preston. I don't think it'll be a pretty one again. I do think Watford will look to make things right, under their new manager. And you never know, the new manager bounce could work, and you very well could leave with 3 points. But I just nothing about Watford is striking confidence into me right now. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, and that you guys might feel exactly the same. But I do believe that Preston North End will make it 2 wins in a row, and I do believe, the key men you've got to look out for are Alfie Devine, who is absolutely sensational on and off the ball. He looks to stretch that pitch. He looks to combine with the wing backs and Lewis Dobbin up front and his forwards, to sort of stretch the pitch, create passing patterns, and sort of look to break you down in a creative manner. And even like the pace we've got in order to counter attack, I think we saw it in the reverse fixture when Daniel Jefferson did score against you, and he did shush you. I would love for that to happen again, but you never know. But I do believe we will have what it takes at Deepdale to see this game out. Again, not going to be a very pretty one, but I think we'll get the job done to make it 2 wins in a row, and hopefully get our playoff campaign back on track, and hopefully get into that top 6. Thank you very much again for the invite. Sorry I couldn't be there, but let me know your thoughts. Do you think you're going to win? I'm not too sure, but let us know your thoughts, and all the worst for this weekend. But yeah, thanks for the invite, and you can find our podcast at the Butter Pie Pod on X, everywhere that you can imagine, everywhere unimaginable where you can just search something. So yeah, thank you very much for the invite, and all the worst for the weekend.
thank you so much to Jack from the Butter Pie podcast for sending in that video. I will leave a link to his channel in the description. Now, getting straight into this evening's episode, before we preview Preston and I asked the lads a question, this Monday we had the announcement of our new manager, Edward Still. Now, for me, this is an odd one. I think it's quite tough to say I wanted him here because I was not expecting him to be here at all. And I think everyone thinks the same way. When I'm looking at his managerial record, he managed in Belgium, and the last two clubs he's at, he's been sacked fairly quickly. And I think one of them, he had an 11% win record. Now, I'm going to go straight to Caden on this one. Caden, a bit optimistic for me. What about you?
Well, look, I think it's an incredibly underwhelming appointment. Obviously, we know what has happened behind the scenes. It's not a Gino or a Scott appointment. They were actually recommended, Edward, by Mr. Mogi Bayat, who we know isn't the cleanest of men. He, as we all know, is currently under investigation for alleged match fixing in Belgium. And I don't have any trust in him. And I don't know what it is, but there's just is not something that's correct with this appointment at all. It's a weird one to go from Javi Gracia, who we all know and love, to Mr. Nobody, which is Edward Still. But I'm more than happy to be proven wrong in his opening games, which will obviously start with Preston on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's tough to say the least. I think I'm, again, a bit optimistic about it. I want to give him the best, but looking at this appointment, it just doesn't stand out to me as promotion challenge. And looking at the games we have in the next few weeks, I think it's a really hard game. Now, moving on then, George, your thoughts on Edward's Still appointment? Do you think it was the right move, or should we have gone for someone more experienced?
Well, I don't think it's the right move at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I personally believe that we should have gone for somebody a bit more experienced. I wouldn't have minded his brother, not Edward, Will Still, to come in instead of him, but we never get what we want at this point. But also, just a point to make about him and Tom Cleverley. So when Tom Cleverley did get sacked in the summer of last year, the Pozzos did blame it down to a lack of experience within the Championship. But with Edward Still coming in, he does not have any Championship experience. He hasn't played, he's not managed, he's not done anything, and he's younger than Tom Cleverley when he came in. So I personally believe that this is a very weird signing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think I would have gone for someone with more Championship experience. Now, Beecher, from an outsider's view, how do you view this one? Do you think it was the right appointment for Watford, or do you think they should have gone for someone more experienced?
Yeah, I think you've all summed it up pretty well. It's a very odd one to appoint. Obviously, you know, everyone knows former Southampton manager and his brother, Will Still. And then he's also got another brother in football, which is Nicholas Still, who's a video analyst. So I'm going to give you a couple of stats. Obviously, I'm the stat man, so I thought I'd just enlighten you on what you're about to see from Edward Still. But over his career, he's had a 30% win rate, which is kind of not great, but he had 40% at his first club, winning 22 of a possible 55. However, over the last two clubs he's had, which, to be fair to him, 2 games was an interim, and he had 8 appearances. He managed 2 games were interim, and a further 8 at his former club, which he got sacked from. He has a 0% win rate. He did not win a single game. Obviously, he came in to Anderlecht as the interim. I gave those games a couple of watches, and obviously I'll go into more depth then. But it's not the greatest appointment in the world. 30% win rate across Belgium isn't great. I think he would have been a great assistant manager to whoever came in. He's got that experience as the assistant manager, but as a manager to come into England with no experience in England, it's totally the wrong move.
Yeah, completely agree with you there, Beach. And now, just before I ask Caden and George another question, I'm just going to read out something that he said after he was appointed. He said he likes his side to be defensively compact, aggressive, and attack with pace. Now, this brings me on to my question for Caden and George. Two players that we haven't really seen much of under Javi Gracia. Do you think this might allow us to see more of Kwadwo Bar and Nestri Irankunda in the side? I'm going to start with you, George. What do you think?
Well, hopefully we do get to see more of Kwadwo Bar and Nestri Irankunda, because as we have seen from them, when they've been on their day, which is relatively often from when they have been getting consistent game time, that they have been very, very good and very influential players. But with how Ed still wants to play, I think that we will easily be able to slot them into our team. Because if he wants to attack with pace, obviously Nestri and Kunda's rapid, and same with KB. So I think they're both physical as well, so they can win a lot of penalties, like we did see with Kwadwo towards the start of last season. So hopefully we do start to see more of them, as we didn't see much of them under Javi Gracia.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you the same question, Caden. Then obviously I know you like Nestri Irankunda and Kwadwo Bar so much. Obviously Bar being such an influential player for us, and obviously Irankunda had a really good start to the season under Paolo Pezzolano, so I think that he deserves the time in the team. What do you think, Caden? Do you think it'll be hard for them to come back into the team, or do you think still we'll like him and get him straight in?
It's a difficult one, because I think Bar will find it easier than Irankunda to get into the team, purely because of the managers that we've had have favoured Marma a lot, and I don't see Marma really being dislodged. So I think we will see Bar and Marma, but I don't think it will be both Bar and Irankunda. I'd love to see it, but I don't see it happening. Bar, yes. Nestri, I think he's going to find it really difficult.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that. Now, we've talked about our new man at the helm, but now we're going to move straight on to the Preston North End preview. Now, Caden, we talked about it on the pod the other day, but Stefan Mfuni, obviously, I was a bit worried about him being 17 years of age and no championship experience. Obviously, he did play in the UEFA Youth Cup for Manchester City. How good do you think he's been in the past two games? And do you think he could be better than Max Elaine?
Well, there's no denying that his quality over the last couple of games has been top notch. He hasn't really put a foot wrong. I think that the tackle that he made against Hull was rash, but apart from that, I don't really see an issue with Mfuni. I think he's fit into the side really, really well. And will he be better than Max Elaine? Potentially, but I don't think he will. But I think we're going to have to wait and see Mfuni partnered with Pollock before we make a judgment, because that's what we saw with Max Elaine.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Caden. Now, George, no win since New Year's Day. Obviously, that's a tough hammer blow. And knowing our away form, it's shocking, to be quite honest. So how hard do you think it'll be to get a win at Deepdale, given our away form? And how do you think we need to do that?
Well, it will be a very difficult game of football, because as we've seen from Preston this season, they've got a couple players who love scoring against us, Mr. Jefferson, in fact. But obviously no wins since New Year's Day, so that's just going to make it even harder for us to win, because away as well, like, yes, we've got a new manager, but Preston won't know how to counter it. But also the same with our players. Like we won't fully know how to play under him. I personally believe, and I think we've just got to play at our best and attack when they're at their weakest on Saturday.
Yeah, completely agree. Now, Beecher, bringing you into this one, Osmajic coming back from his ban, a player that, well, really loves to score against us. I think it's something like 4 goals in his last 4 games against us or something like that. Real proven goal scorer at championship level. How important do you think he is for Preston? And do you think he'll score on Saturday?
Yeah, arguably the most controversial footballer in the championship. He's had a lot this season, especially, and little bits here and there. But yeah, what a striker! And unfortunately, let down by his behaviour. I think he's key for Preston on the attacking front, obviously, but without him there, it's always a bit of you don't really know where the game's going to go. Obviously, like you said, Watford have been scored on by Osmajic quite a few times, and I think honestly, it's just going to be fate that Osmajic will score and maybe even have another controversial moment to make it 3 for the season. But yeah, I think he definitely will score. It'll just be one of them, and it'll be a really, really like, did he have to score that kind of goal? Just like 2 yards out and whacks it. But yeah, I think he'll score, and he's so influential on the attacking play of Preston, and he has been, especially last season as well. So yeah, key to the squad, and definitely think he'll score.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about this one as well. I think Osmajic is a brilliant player for this level, as I said, and obviously he's got a good run against us. He loves scoring against us, and I think that it's quite obvious that he'll score, like you said, Beecher. So, yeah, I just can't see any other way. But anyway, moving on, Caden, want to touch about the Moroccan duo then. Mama and Luz are both without a goal involvement since Boxing Day. Do you think someone else should get a turn in the side for them? And if so, who do you think it should be?
Well, do I think that they should be dropped? Maybe, but I just think they're too influential to our team. I think Loser has had a drop off over the last couple of weeks, but Mama is a really young player. We're gonna have to give him more time. I think the weakest point with Mama is that he thinks everything has to be a skill, has to be some sort of skill move, a flip flap or whatever. It just has to be. And that's his downfall. Loser is the overall midfielder, the perfect midfielder for the championship. So I wouldn't drop him. But I think if we're going to drop one out the two, it'll be Mama. And then maybe Iran Kunda to take the place, but I see it more being instead of Iran Kunda, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I completely see that. Now, George, a player we know a lot about, as you touched upon him, Daniel Jefferson, a player that we don't like to mention. It's probably written in the stars again, like Osmajic, that he's going to score against us. He's got 5 goals, 2 assists this season, which we didn't see for us, which, frustrates me a lot. But do you think he'll score against us? And if so, how influential do you think he'll be for Preston?
Well, I personally believe that he's going to score a brace. It wouldn't surprise me at all, to be honest with you. He's coming back from injury against his former club, who gave him quite a lot of stick, you could say. And I think he's obviously got 5 goals this season, one coming against us at Vicarage Road. And I think he's going to be quite influential because he's going to be wanting to be at the top of his game, because just to shush all of us Watford fans, and we need to make sure that our defence is on par and be putting in them good tackles but not getting sent off.
Yeah, completely agree. Now, I was watching the Butter Pie podcast, I guess, earlier. They definitely said Daniel Jefferson's a player that they like. However, he gets injured quite a lot every 3 or so games. And you know, we saw him not at his quality best with Watford, and I think Preston's a good fit for him. Don't get me wrong. So I do believe that it'll do well for them. But for me, I think, yeah, it's written in the stars he's going to score against us, and we're just going to have to keep the defence compact and make sure that we don't concede a hat trick to him. Now, Beecher, a player you told me a lot about before he signed for Watford on loan last season and obviously back on loan this season, and that is James Abankwah. Had a run outside of the team, outside of the starting 11, and now he's come back into the starting 11 alongside Mfuni. And you know what? I think they've been a really good pairing. He didn't really work with Keben, but Mfuni and Abankwah, I think they've been a really good pairing. How influential do you think he is in the back line for Watford?
Yeah, but both of those players you just mentioned, Mfuni and Abankwah, are players I've looked at, and obviously you guys have. I've spoken to you guys a lot about them. But Abankwah is amazing. Both two young and fantastic defenders, and I think Abankwah is just one of them where it's like he's destined to be like a main staple of the squad. So yeah, he's just fantastic. He's really, really solid. And I think as well, not only that, but just the way he commands himself off the pitch as well. I think a lot of people his age aren't as mature, and he's just a leader both on and off the pitch. And if his time at Watford can continue, I wouldn't be surprised to see him potentially in the future become the Watford captain. Obviously, as well, just to add, again, another stat, but we obviously mentioned Matty Pollock's injury earlier, and how kind of the Watford's defence can be a little bit shaky at times. Edward still has had 140 goals conceded against his sides in his entire career, which is more than has been scored. I think he's had around 80 matches he's managed, and 140 goals conceded is quite a lot. So if Abankwah and Funi can really lock together, I think there's definitely the chance that can kind of hopefully stay as low as possible for his sake, but also for your guys' sake, seeing as odd and how bad that record is.
Yeah. Now, before I move on to a bit of a tactical insight from my point of view of Preston, I'm just going to ask the lads one more question, and that has to be about Eduardo Bove. Obviously, we saw him training with the matchday squad the other day. Caden, do you think it's too early for him to be involved, or do you think he might get a go this weekend off the bench?
I think he'll get a go off the bench. Everything that I've seen and some of the things I've been told is leading towards him being in the squad on Saturday. It'll be very, very limited minutes with Bove, which is expected because he hasn't played football like on professionally, first team football for a year and a half, I think, maybe more. But yeah, it's gonna be gradual with him. I could see him getting 10 minutes, maybe 20 at a push, but anything more than that, I think we're risking him way too early.
Yeah, George, before you go, because I know you've got to go, who do you think it's too early for him to get a game, or do you think this is a perfect opportunity?
Yeah, well, sorry I have to go, but with Eduardo Bove, I do believe that I think it might be a little too soon for him, to be honest. Yes, he did travel down with the squad to Southampton and come out and train on the pitch just pre-match, like what sometimes happens with our academy players over at Vicarage Road. I think he will be in the squad for Derby at home on the 21st of this month, as it is a home game, and I think it's a little bit more settling to make your debut for the club, especially considering you haven't played in one and a half years. So I think on Saturday it will be a small bit too soon for him. Just get a bit more fitness in, get a few more minutes on the pitch, get your agility up, and then see how he's going to do. by the 21st, and that's when I'll see whether he can get in the squad.
Yeah, thank you so much, George, for joining us this week. I'm sure you'll be back next week. Good to have you on as always. Now, Beecher, I'm going to ask you briefly, obviously about, as we've said, Eduardo Bove, a high-profile signing for Watford. I think he's beat off Premier League interest for him. Do you think it's too early for him, obviously not playing football in a year, or do you think, again, like Hayden said, the right time for him?
Well, obviously, yeah, been out for quite some time, and it might be a little bit too early, but I think Caden said that he thinks he's going to score if he plays. No, I stand corrected. I thought I heard somebody say he would score. But I was going to say, yeah, I've already been proven wrong on that standpoint with Carl Laren of Southampton. He scored on his debut, so I always stand corrected. There you go. But yeah, honestly, I think it might be a little bit too early. If he does come on, be a couple of minutes, and it will be a sort of either we're comfortable and we're doing really well and we can bring him on, we can risk bringing him on, or it'll be we can't bring you on, this is too high stakes of a moment. It'll be a couple of minutes just to like get himself involved and finally people see him playing. But I don't see him playing. He'll probably play in a later game week, and again I think that will only be a couple of minutes too. He needs 100%. For me, he would need to be at 100%. I just don't think he's there yet.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's a risk, definitely taking him in this early when reports were that he wasn't going to be ready till March. So, I mean, it's a risk, but again, if he's ready for me. But I do get the factor that it is a big risk. Now, we're going to get onto this segment now, and because Jack couldn't join us from the Butter Pie podcast this evening, I'm going to talk through a little bit about Preston's tactical setup. Now, here, as you can see, it's a 4-4-2 formation. But then I was listening to the Butter Pie podcast earlier, and they said they sort of play a 5-3-2. So almost, well, Whiteman coming into the back three with the wing backs. Sorry, no, not the wing backs. The midfield three of McCann, Small, and Devine. And then, obviously, these two up top, Dobbin, he's a real player for them. I think on loan from Everton, I think he's done really, really well. Lukovic, I think Osmajic will come back in for him. Obviously disappointing because he always scores against us. But Jefferson might get a start as well. Obviously coming back from injury. He'll love to come back from injury just before the Watford game. But no, I think they've got a really talented manager, and Paul Heckingbottom from his time at Sheffield United, I know he likes his side to be on the front foot, and he doesn't like conceding goals. As we saw in their promotion season, they were really, really solid defensively. I think they kept nearly the most clean sheets in the Championship, if I'm right. I don't know entirely. But yeah, obviously Ben Whiteman as well, a player that's been a real force in the midfield for Preston. I think he's a really good player. But when I'm looking at goalkeeper, obviously they've lost their best goalkeeper to injury, and that was Daniel Everson. I thought he was a really good goalkeeper for them, especially when he came to the Vic. He made some really good saves and kept us at bay, apart from that loser goal, because that was just brilliant and that couldn't be stopped. But when I'm looking at their goalkeeper, that's an area we could expose. But then if you're looking here, man of the match on Fotmob, I think he made 5 crucial saves, which won them the game. And they kept a Portsmouth side at bay, who I do think are quite a good side, especially with the likes of the players they've got. But no, that's a bit more on the Preston side of things. Now, before we move on to the predicted lineup segment, players to watch out for then. Caden, I think you'll be saying 2 of them, and I think I've got them in my head who you're going to say, but players to watch out for Preston?
Well, it's got to be the 2 most obvious ones. The goal scorers against Watford, they seem to do it every time, Osmajic and Jefferson. They're both spawny. That's the issue. They are both spawny, and they always are somehow back for the Watford game. Osmajic is normally suspended, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, his return against Watford. Lo and behold, what happens? he normally goes and scores. So they've got to be the key players. Away from them, I think you've got to look at Whiteman in midfield. A fantastic player for them, and I think he's going to be very, very influential into the orchestration of proceedings on Saturday.
Yeah, Beecher, is there any players you think we look out for on Preston's side?
Look, obviously, there's the main one of Osmajic. He's always going to be one of the players you always have to look out for with Preston. And then I was going to go in a different direction with goal scorer against Portsmouth, Alfie Devine. He is just one of the most solid midfielders around. I really rate him so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he'll do against Watford. But I think he'll be a really key player for the side.
Yeah, I was about to pick him out just as you said that, Alfie Devine. He's a brilliant player, and I was really impressed with him when he came to the Vic earlier on in the season. Now, moving on to our final segment of tonight's episode, and that is the predicted lineup segment. So I'm going to go to Caden first on his predicted lineup. So, Caden, here you go.
Yeah, so I think under Ed still, I don't think we're going to see four at the back. I think it will be very reminiscent of sometimes what we saw of Will Still at Southampton, but also Ruben Amorim at Manchester United with the 3-4-3. Selvig in goal, as I say every week, Baxter can't get into the side. He's not good enough. Pollock, I'm hoping he's back from injury because he's just the rock at the back that I think gives us a sense of calm and patience. And Fooney and Abankwa, spot on. They have been fantastic over the last couple of games, and Fooney's really come into the side well. Bowler, nailed on. I don't think I need to say much on him. Petrie, the new stayer in the side. The only reason I've done it is purely based on the formation, considering I don't think Ngakia is the best right mid / winger. So Petrie fills that void. And I think he is a clever player on the attack, as we've seen in late stages of games. And then the front three is got to be Offman, Marma, and Dumbia. And Barr. I don't know why Barr hasn't been playing. Is it because they're worried that he's going to get injured and then a deal that they may have set up for the summer falls through? Or I don't know. I don't know what the reason is behind Barr not playing, but he needs to start. It can't be attitude problems anymore.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that, Caden. Now, I don't know why this... Oh, what's happened here? That's my XI. So we'll get on to my starting 11 then. So in goal, I have gone for Egil Selvik. As we say every week, Caden, Baxter's not up for this level yet. I'll do the fullbacks first. Mark Bowler and Jeremy Ngakia, self-explanatory. Again, as I say every week. I do think Petrie has been really good recently. Off the bench, he's bright. He's got a lot of energy. So I think that's a potential option. However, I see him more as a wing-back. Now, Caden, I'm going to disagree with you in the defence here. I've gone for Fooney and Abankwa, and my reasoning is if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think it's the right option to keep them because they've been solid, really solid together. Now, defensive midfield. Then, obviously, I know Loser likes to roam forward, so Loser will be roaming forward more, but Mendy will be the deeper of the two, and I think Nampalius Mendy has been pretty good since he's come back into the side, and I really, really like the look of him. And given Hector Cipriano's long-term absence, which is a real blow, I think it's self-explanatory that he comes into the side. Then on the left, Caden, I have agreed with you. I have gone for Kwadwo Bar. I think he deserves game time. Again, they could be worried about an injury, but I feel like they'd more want to sell Mama in the summer because of his trajectory. I think he's been incredible, and there's top Premier League clubs watching him, Manchester United, Liverpool, so I think they'd want to keep him safe if anything. Now, cam position, I've gone for Georgie Chatfatadze. We saw him on the left against Southampton, and I don't think that's his preferred role. I think he works better in the 10 position. He's not been great, but then you have to say he's had injury problems. I think it's like 3 goals for Watford so far in his Watford career, but he needs to add that to his game. But I do think that he's a good all-round player, and he's a good dribbler over the ball. And I think he's impressive. Now, because of Irankunda's suspension, I have kept Mama in my side. I do think Irankunda will have a part to play soon, but Mama, I think it's a tough one for me picking him in my starting 11 because I think that he tries too much with the ball. He tries the spectacular instead of doing the simple, and it really frustrates me. I think he should just take his man on a lot. I said it in my recent article for Lower Tiers. He just takes his man on too much, and not scoring goals in 5 hours of football. We need to do the simple instead of the tricks and flicks. I know he wants to leave. I can kind of see that he wants to play at the highest level possible with teams scouting him. So again, I think it's tough to keep him in my side, but I do like Hoffman Mama, and I have been really impressed with him. So I'll keep him in for now while Irankunda serves the last of his match ban. Now, up top, Caden and I completely agree with you. It's got to be Mamadou Doumbia. I think Kiram Gard has been off it, but I do think he's a good striker, but he just needs to get some consistency, and he'll be a much better player. But then again, having said that, we're putting crosses into the box, and for me, that doesn't suit Dumbia's style of play. I think we should be playing him in behind or long balls over the top because that's more suited to his all-round game. And I think he's a good finisher at times. I just don't think he's that good at heading the ball, but he does have a lot of work ethic, which, Caden, you'll probably agree with me here. I do think he's got more work ethic than Kiram Gard. He challenges for the ball. He's always pressing. And I expect that out of a young player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a really, really solid player. I think his last goal was against Portsmouth, I want to say. I think that was his last goal for us when he came off the bench after returning from AFCON. But no, that concludes my starting 11. I do think still likes to play a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, as I've read. So if it's a 4-3-3, I would see Bar, Mama, Doumbia front three, and Georgie maybe slotting into the midfield with Loser and Nampalius Mendy playing a bit deeper and Georgie playing more centrally. So yeah, that concludes my predicted starting 11. Now, thank you so much for everyone to watching. But before we go for this evening, I want to get everyone's score predictions. So I'll start with our guest this week. Beecher, score predictions for Watford Preston?
Oh, I think it's gonna upset you guys a little bit. I'm honestly thinking that Preston will probably win this game. And I think it's probably going to be 2-0.
Any goal scorers?
I think Osmajic is the one you have to go for. If Jefferson gets some minutes and scores, I'll be delighted.
Now, Caden, before I give my score prediction, I'll hand over to you. Score predictions?
Well, it's two more than Beecher. 4-0 Preston. Osmajic 2, Jefferson 2. Yeah, we're going to get smashed at Deepdale. They will outplay us. They will outclass us. We have to back the manager, but listening to the win ratios, yeah, it doesn't look so good, does it? And those goals conceded, yeah, 100 odd in 80 matches. Tank to watch out for. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 4-0 Preston win at Deepdale.
Now, I'm going to be the optimistic one here. I am going to be the optimistic. Now, I think new manager bounce. Obviously, I don't believe in that, but yes, there's a new manager. So we've got a chance. Not scoring in 5 hours of football. We'll want to put that right. So I'm going to go for the scrappiest of scrappiest wins. I'm going to go a tight 1-0 win. And I think I'm going to go Quadwo Bar to come off the bench and score for me. I think he needs to score because I want him to score because I appreciate him so much, especially everything he did for us last season. He was a really influential player. Now, that concludes tonight's episode. I want to say a big thank you to Beecher and Caden for joining me this week. And a big thank you to Jack from the Butter Pie podcast for doing that little segment, even if he couldn't be on this week. We'll be back next week for our Derby County preview, where I will be in a different location. But until then, we hope we get the victory on Saturday. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. You owns!